I want to welcome everybody to our February Education Night. It's February the 27th, 2025. Just for those that don't know, I'm wearing glasses because I had cataract surgery on Monday and I'm having to protect my eyes from UV light because I have lenses in that have to be adjusted by UV light, so they don't want any ambient UV light affecting my lenses. So anyway, that's why I look weird. I told everybody I look like the emoji that has glasses. So these weird glasses they gave me because they cover my whole eyes. Anyway, we got
Look good to me.
a few announcements, and then we'll go into our program tonight with Jim. I wanted to go over the assignments coming up for the next few months. March is minimalism. This is our third attempt at getting this right. Let's try to work on that. Don't forget, Jim has put a link on the website in the monthly list of assignments, so that go take a look at what he considers as minimalism. So if you want a little refresher. April is smoke. So smoke needs to be either the primary subject or greatly interacting with the subject. You can use incense, you can use a fog machine, you can just be careful, don't burn anything down, people. Okay. May is leading lines. So, everything is leading to a subject. And June is silhouette. So that is, they're a figure of some kind. So the subject needs to not have any discernible features. So it's just a black, the subject is basically black against a bright background. So it can be anything in that regard. Our education nights, I'm like happy to tell you, I have booked all the months. We have four special presentations coming up this year. So I'm just going to quickly go through these so you know what's coming up. We switched to Tony Gomes is good. It was supposed to be doing this micro talk tonight, but he had surgery this week. So we switched him and Jim. So Jim's graciously said he would take tonight and Tony's going to do his next month. April, we are going to have a Tony Baldessero, who is a really great photographer from, I think he's up in the northeast. I'm not sure exactly where he lives, but maybe Midwest. I think he's Chicago area. And he's going to be talking about post-processing bird photography, but he's going to be using stuff that anybody can use in their photography, in their post-processing. So that should be interesting for those of us that do shoot birds, but it'll be helpful to everybody as well. May, we're going to have Caroline Jensen, who is from Minnesota. She is a flower farmer from Minnesota, she is an excellent still life photographer. She uses a small, really easy to use setup for her still lifes. And she's going to be talking about that. It is one of our assignments later in the year, still life with lighting. So that's a prep for our assignment. In June, Robert's going to be doing portrait headshots toned black and white, which is an assignment later in the year as well. July, we're going to have Jennifer King, and she is known for her black and white fine art photography. So she's going to be speaking for us on that. August is our Peer and Beer. And September, we're going to have Chris Nicholson. He is going to be talking to us about light painting. Primarily, his is going to be more of the landscape light painting tonight. So he did a great talk at Chicago Live on shooting photography by the light of the moon, actually. So you might see a little bit of that in there as well as the light painting part of it. And then October, we'll be doing the member takeover again. So if anybody's interested in participating in that, be thinking about that because, it takes some time to come up with an idea and put together a presentation. So that's in October. So that's all our education nights for the rest of the year. Any questions on any of that? Okay. Our photo camp 2025 photo camp is coming up in March, March 21st through the 23rd at Tillis Hill. I previously, like I mentioned last week, all the details are on the website. And I wanted to just go through real quick. We had some issues with the sign-up form, and I'm not sure why, but I just want to make sure that we've got everybody is signed up that thinks they've signed up. So far, I have Rod, Jack and Lori, Lee and Lourdes, Tori, Brian, and Lee Win and HJ. Is anybody else, if you already signed up and I didn't call your name, please go back to the website and sign up again, because for whatever reason, it didn't go through initially. So
Okay, because I'll resign. I signed
yeah,
up
yeah.
already, I
So
thought.
yeah, if I didn't call out your name, then and you're going to be coming. Even if you're just coming for Saturday, we need to know that, because we need to get enough food for everybody for lunch. Any questions on PhotoCamp?
I have my screen up right now looking for the sign up form. So what page is it on?
You have to scroll down. There's a couple of slideshows and then scroll down. It's like
On
the
the
third one
homepage?
down. I can't, for whatever reason, I can't figure out if they've taken the ability to pin things at the top away, that I can't, or at least I can't find it anymore.
I found it. Okay.
Okay. If you know how to pin it, Jim, can you pin it? I can't figure out how to pin the darn thing.
I can go and look and see about structuring
yeah.
that. If I
Okay.
get a reminder after the meeting, I'll go
Okay.
look at the
Yeah,
look at
I
the
looked
website.
everywhere. There's no way that I could. They updated the WordPress, and it looks totally different. A lot of not totally different. It looks somewhat different than it normally does, and I couldn't find the pinning ability anywhere. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, I want to sign up, so I want to get my name in the form.
all right. All right. The last thing we're going to do before we get started with is something I came across when I was out of Chicago Live. Actually, Stephanie Johnson, who spoke for us last year on ICM, she did this, and it's actually something we're all most, I think all of us are, or most of us are subscribers to Adobe, and Adobe put this thing out recently, and they're doing a lot of different things these days, and this thing is called Adobe Creative Types. And it's a little survey that you do. They basically ask you questions, and it only takes a couple of minutes, and then it tells you what kind of creative you are. And let me just share my screen real quick so I can show it to you. You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, this is the screen. I'm going to give you a link in a minute in the chat. And this screen, and each one of these things is a different type of creative. So producer, and if you click on each one of these, it will give you a description of it, okay? So if you go down here to the bottom left-hand corner where it says take the test, right here down at the bottom, stuff keeps coming up in front of mine. But anyway, if you click on that, it asks you maybe just a few questions. I think it was 6 or 7 questions, and they're pretty easy to answer. I mean, it's multiple choice, I think. And yeah, it was. And then at the end, it will tell you which one of these you are. I turned out to be a maker. So I was just give you guys, let me give you the link. That's just that. See, here's Dreamer, and you click on it, and it gives you a description of it. Sort of like an astrology, but not the same thing. Okay. And anyway, this is one of those things that Adobe's doing with their AI. I'm going to go ahead and give you this link right here. Copy. Where is it? Everything is in the way. Can't get to anything here. Where's my Zoomy? All right, hold on a second, guys. I'm gonna have to. I think it's on my other screen, and it's not on. The Sherry thing is gone. There he goes. Okay, there we go. There it is. Stop sharing. Okay, here is the link in the chat. Links in the chat. And then I'm going to put up a poll, and I think I could put it up and just let it sit there so that, and you can see past it. So there's a poll there, and when you get done with the little question things from Adobe, just click and say which one you are. Just, it would be interesting just to see, because it was Stephanie actually had put this out at the meeting which there's, hundreds of people participating. And it was interesting to see the variety of, these are all photographers, the variety of types that were, most of them were, I think most of them were in the artist, obviously the artist part of it, but it was surprising to see how many other people got through that, to see what the little test told them.
Not easy to answering these questions. I get one or the other, and it's like,
You got to think a little bit about yourself.
I'd like to ask, like, what do you mean by that?
Well, you kind of have to just think about it.
Yeah.
So each one of those, it'll tell you which one you are, and then you could, if you could actually send, I think, the results to yourself, and you'll get a little that printout on for each type of person. All right, I guess let's go ahead and let Jim get started while you guys are doing that. Any questions or comments? Robert, do you have anything you want to add to anything?
No, I'm good.
Jim, anything outside the presentation you want to talk about?
Sorry, I was taking a test
No, okay.
to figure out who I am.
Do you have your workshops full? Jim?
There's space for everything. There is. I could fit one more person in on the video one. I could squeeze in one more on that. There's unlimited space on the
East Coast one?
Seascapes and Shorebirds one. And there's, I think I can get 2, possibly 3 people if they wanted, depending on the sleeping arrangements in the house in Georgia for the waterfall trip in May.
And if you're interested, send a message to Jim in the chat, and he'll send you a link to his information.
But yeah, I've got the house reserved again up in Sky Valley, and right now I've got several people from the Spring Hill Camera Club that are
Really?
that are going on that.
He's running out. Any questions? Anybody else have any comments or questions about anything at all?
I have a question to Jim about a Seabirds and Seacoast trip. Jim, I was reading the description that says it's going to be Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, in that you had something scheduled for sunrise on day 1. I just wanted to make sure I understood that. That's sunrise on Sunday, yes?
Let me look at my calendar.
I
You
would
don't have
have
to do
to
that
make a
now.
reservation. I'm going to go over on Saturday.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
really asking is.
Since I have nothing to worry about anymore, since I don't have a horse anymore, I am going to go early.
Here we go. April. Yes, that is correct. Starting at sunrise Sunday morning.
Okay, so it
And
makes sense to go
yeah,
over
you've got an option of staying over there the night before, or it's it's about a 3-hour drive from Tampa if you just want to leave in the wee hours to drive there.
Nah, I'd rather sleep.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
That's what my plan is going to be. I'm gonna be there Saturday night.
Yeah, me too.
All
you.
right. Getting some interesting responses here.
Yeah. Now, when I did do the scouting, I started over there at sunrise, but that's what I did. I just left super early and actually hit the coast, probably about 10 minutes before sunrise.
Okay, but you had to leave at like 3 o'clock in the morning, right?
I left about the time I'm normally going to bed.
Yeah, that's what I figured. All right. Go ahead, Jim. You can get started on your presentation.
Okay, it's available for me to share.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I actually was able to start prepping for this at 6 o'clock tonight. So I've got some. I threw some images in Photoshop that I think will be decent examples for me to use to cover blending modes. So We've done a little bit with blending modes for textures, and we're going to go ahead and expand on that now. Let me get my screen share.
Lynn, I resent the camping thing, so I hope you got it.
I'll check it in a minute.
Okay, and I'm moving my window with everybody's pictures on it to another screen so that it doesn't cover up my Photoshop palettes since this is being recorded.
Yeah, we can see everything right now.
Okay, good. Yeah, so just throw up some stuff in Photoshop here. Let me find an image. All right, I'll work with that one to start. Black and white. In Photoshop, I'm just going to duplicate the layer for now just so I can activate it. Blending modes are found right here in this window. They define how the different layers will interact with each other. It defines how the selected layer will interact with the layer below it. If you were to count in this list, you're going to find that there's 27 blending modes. Don't get overwhelmed by that, because in real life, I use 4 most of the time and 2 some of the time for a total of 6. And some of the others, maybe once or twice ever in all the time I've ever needed to use Photoshop. So 4 primarily and 2 some of the time are what I use. So we're going to cover those right now, the 6 really useful ones out of the list. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trash that layer and just put an empty layer up there so that I can use it to show what some of the modes do. I'm going to go ahead and let me get a gradient, and I'm going to find a black and white gradient. There. And on the new layer, I'm just going to draw a gradient from black to white across the screen. So right now, all you see is a top layer. What's on the top layer? You don't see anything on there. If I activate a blending mode, one of the most useful ones will be multiply, so I'll start with that. An easy way to think about multiply is that you can say that on a scale of 0 to 100, white is 0 and black is 100 with respect to opacity, because that's what blending modes do. Blending modes are mathematical ways to affect the opacity between the 2 layers. So let's turn that off. If I activate multiply, what's going to happen is there's going to be 0 interaction where it's white. Nothing has happened to the original image. If you look at that, where it's white, white is 0 and black is 100. You get 100% opacity of the black, and you get 0 of the white. And at 50% gray, you get 50% interaction. This is actually a good way to put a gradient layer onto something if you want to just darken it. This is the same thing, what I'm doing here, that actually happens when you lay gradients in Lightroom and things like that. For an exposure gradient is actually doing this. Is this making sense so far? Mm-hmm. When you're in multiply, the darkest things on the top layer have no interaction, and you see through the lightest things on the top layer. There are some other uses for that. Now, if you've seen vignettes in place. That's how they're doing a vignette as well. Let me go back and go there, and I'm going to switch it to a radial. And do that. Go back to multiply blend mode. It's a vignette. Now, another use for multiply is if you want to, if you've got something that's bright and you want to darken it down, if you've got an image that's potentially overexposed, you can just duplicate your image, tell it to multiply, and you darken it up. It is a way to deal with an overexposed image, and you can change the opacity here. So I can just say, hey, I want to darken this image up. I want a little less exposure on it. You can just slide the opacity on there. In a nutshell, that's multiply. There's another one that's effectively the opposite, which is screen. I'll go ahead and put that on there. We'll draw that gradient again. Oops, let me get the linear gradient. There we go. This time I'll go with screen. And now you get the white shows and black becomes invisible. It's kind of the inverse of multiply with what's going on. So it's a good way of taking an image that's underexposed and making it brighter. An actual real world example, let's see, here, this is just a straight out of camera image. It's too dark. No adjustments, just a family snapshot at Christmas. This is one where I just duplicate it, say screen.
Yikes.
Sorry, I banged into one of my microphones. I hope that didn't blow your ears out on the other end. I'm in stereo. I got microphones on two sides of me, and it's. But you say, just duplicate the layer, screen blend, and you always have opacity adjustment to fine tune it. But an underexposed image, that'll pull it up. An overexposed image, multiply will knock it down. Now, I often will use these in tandem with each other and create multiply layers and screen layers and use masks to do some, it's another way of doing dodging and burning is to have different layers to do that. And suppose it's not enough. You can duplicate that layer again. And when you copy it, it copies the blending mode as well. So now I have a screen blended layer on top of a screen blended layer. It's really bright. I could just say, well, let me just tone down that top layer right there if I wanted to. So there's the original. There's one duplication in screen blend. There's a second duplication in screen blend at 35%. Any questions on multiply or screen so far? Okay,
Nope.
good. Yeah, I was going to say, one's going to one darkens the dark, darkens the light areas mostly, and one lightens the dark areas mostly. So they're good for that. Let me see some. Oh, yeah. Now you can get creative. I'm going to take this. I'm going to duplicate that layer. I'm going to go into multiply. Already look at how much more interesting that is. I'm going to do that again. And then I'm going to put a mask on that. Maybe even a little smaller. And say, let me give it a little pop right there. Simply by masking that layer. So there's your original. There's 2 multiply layers with a little mask on the other one. If you wanted to show all the way through to the original with that mask, if you hold the Alt or Option key, you can duplicate that. That's a little too much. And you do have the availability on a mask to vary the density on a mask. You can, let me do this, get a mask. That's sort of like the opacity of the mask right there. See that? So now I'm fine-tuning, I am fine-tuning the mask, not the layer. That's what this density slider does if you have a mask selected. Density is the opacity of a mask, effectively. So, yeah, kind of like that. Well, let's keep going. Let's get real dramatic.
Whoa.
And yeah, the mask is too much now. Where's the? Yeah, that's a little more risky looking. But like I say, you can stack multiple iterations of that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and delete these masks. I could go ahead and add one more layer. Instead of multiply, I can go in here and say screen on that layer, and look, I brought that almost right back up to the original. And from there, then I could put, I'm going to hold Alt or Option, put a mask on there. And in this case, paint with white. Let's get a big soft brush. And you have the option, anytime you do a brush tool or any of those tools, you've got a fade option right here. I can fade back the brush tool. What I normally do is I'll go back to 0 and then just gradually bring that brush up to wherever I wanted, right about there. And that's the same as if I painted with a brush at 44% opacity in the first place. However, I'm not smart enough to guess that I need a 44% opacity brush. So I will just go with 100% brush and then set that brush to 0 and then say, and then let me just bring it up to where I want it to be, instead of trying to guess at the actual opacity of brush I need in the first place. So that is the same as if I were to go up here and say opacity on the brush, and I were smart enough to guess, 44%, and then brush with it. Hope you're learning something here. Hang on. I'm trying to show a few more things other than just the blending layers. So that's some options right there with the multiply and screen that you can do. Let me see if I got a few other things here. Oh, here's something else using those layers. Suppose I wanted to put a logo on this. and use it in a portfolio or online on my website or something. I'm going to transform it to make it fit. All right, let's say I want to put this over here. Now I can use blend modes on this. And if I hit multiply, I can just take the white right out of that and just get the black part of the image. Instead of going in here and trying to erase the white out of that, that's going to be a pain in the butt. You can just drop it on top of a layer, hit multiply, and because it's a pure black and white image, the white goes away. And now we've just got a black outline of the logo you can use. Now, I go screen, we've got just the exact opposite. Now I've knocked the black out of that and just left the white part of the image. So if you're working with black and white logos, that's another use for multiply and screen, is that you can make various iterations of those logos. And of course you can fade the opacity of the layer if you want it to look more like a watermark. Now it's kind of like a watermark logo. You do the same thing with multiply. Now it's just a dark watermarked logo. So there's a couple real use cases right there for screen and multiply. We following along? Anybody have any questions before I move on to another blend mode?
Just a general question, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Not to sound dumb, but I do what I'm good at. I understand what they do. What I'm not seeing is why are they called screen and multiply as opposed to lighten and darken or some other.
It goes back. That's some old. Some of it is old darkroom terminology.
Okay.
Multiply is it is sort of like it if you were to I think if you were to stack slides together, you kind of get that effect. However, if you're projecting images onto a screen and then you were to project two images onto a screen, you kind of get that screen effect. Don't quote me on it, but I think that's where it comes from.
All right. Thank you.
And there are blend modes that are called light and darken, and they're different.
Yeah.
They're similar, but yeah. And very occasionally, but it's real special cases, like use lighten and darken. The good thing about it is that you can activate the menu, and you don't even have to remember what they do. You can just scroll down.
Yeah.
And hover and watch the effects.
Yeah. I do that a lot.
And you can see that based on what's going on in the image, some of them do nothing because they're for special cases, and some of them just do, if you're an illustrator and doing graphic arts and things like that, hey, you probably will use a lot more of these, blending modes, in a graphic art environment versus a photography environment.
Within Photoshop, is it possible to rearrange the sequence of those blending modes?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And they are grouped, if you notice, they're in blocks where they're grouped together in families where they're similar. So everything in this first group right here is something that will make something darker. Everything in the next group is something that will make something lighter. You see how they've done that?
Yep.
And then these other groups are special groups related to how they interact. And you see.
I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
One of the things that before you get off of multiply, I used it a lot for old photographs, old black and white photographs. You do the control or the Command J or Control J.
Yep.
You duplicate it with an old photograph, and you use multiply. It can really bring out some of the highlights of photographs that seem to be lost in the past. But yeah, it works well for old photographs. If you guys want to try that.
Yeah, for it. Yeah, you're talking about ones that are faded.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they're faded, then yes, you need to bring some more density back into them, and multiply is a great way to bring some more density, back into it. Yeah, for a faded, washed out, overexposed, anything in that realm that you're trying to fix, multiply is great for that. If it's too dark, screen is the opposite. Screen blending is where you want to go if things are too dark to start with, as we did with that one. That was using screen to fix that one because it was too dark. So,
Do you happen to know the asking price of that house?
Yeah, asking price of that house.
oh, when at the time I photographed that house, it was I think 8.5 million.
Just
Are you familiar with the VF Knitwear company that makes the uniforms for professional baseball, professional football players, and all that?
No.
Oh, well, the owner of the company that makes the uniforms for professional sports teams owned that house at the time.
It should be worth more.
It had hurricane damage at the time when I photographed it.
It's a fixer-upper, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jim,
Yeah.
you might want to remind everybody that before Lightroom and we had brushes, this is how you had to change the luminosity of the photograph. There was no other way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, you just did remind me of something, Chris.
Oh, God.
No, all those blend modes are available on your brush. Well, I don't know that all of them, but you see over here it says mode?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're all
there they are. You can just brush with a brush in that mode. So
Well, I've never done that before, so I've missed that one.
Let's take my brush and put it in screen mode. And yeah, of course, screen mode on a black brush will do nothing. However, screen mode on a white brush,
What?
you notice it's not a pure, even pure white. Well, I have it at 44%, so there. Yeah, so it is acting, like a pure white brush. Let me switch it. If I do a white brush in multiply, it does nothing. If I do it in black, I do a black brush in multiply, it's going to go pure black on there. But some of the other modes, I see there, I have 100% brush there. Let me undo all these. I'm doing 100%, but in soft light, and we'll get to this mode. And you see it is not painting a pure white brush. There's a type of interaction going on here. So you can just directly brush in blend modes. I go black. See, now I'm painting with a black brush in soft light mode. This is a kind of dodging and burning technique. Yeah, this is really rough, but it's so you get the idea. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
A question. When doing something like this, are you better off using let's say the screen blend mode to brighten the image versus creating an adjustment layer and adjusting the brightness?
It all depends on your style. And it's another useful tool to know about. And in my case, I've just edited so many countless hundreds of thousands of images, and knowing all the different techniques, I just look at an image and decide I'm going to do it with a blend mode. I'm going to do it with this. I'm going to do it with that. That's the thing about Photoshop. Sometimes there's 6, 7, 10, 12 ways to accomplish something. And one may be a little more refined than the other, or one may be a little faster than the other. And, that's what's going to decide my choice. In the end, a lot of times you can get the same results in the end using many different methods. It's going to be what's suiting your workflow in that image. Are you looking for something that's more refined and more controllable, something that's faster when you're plowing through a lot of images in a session? As you learn these things and start practicing with them, you start figuring out which images are going to be, done, what method you're going to choose. And like I say, this is, for working in Photoshop. If you're just bypassing Lightroom entirely and jumping into Photoshop, these are some useful tools, that have always been there. I know a lot of these things because a lot of these things were the way we did it before there ever was a Lightroom, when you only had Photoshop.
It's like if you learn to drive on a stick shift, it makes you even a better driver on an automatic.
Yep. So, speaking of soft light, that is the next mode that I was going to jump to. So, let's find. Yeah, we'll go back to that image again we were using with the gradient layers. So, again, I'll pull a gradient across that. I picked a black and white so you can just see interaction of dark and light, because that's what these are. These are doing things with opacity, most of these layers. So taking color out of the equation just for learning what they do can be helpful, I think. So now I'm going to take this and going to go to soft light. Now I'm going to turn it on and off so you can see. And in soft light, what's going on is there's interaction in the black. The black is darkening, but not going full black. The white is lightening, but not going full white. And in this case, where there's middle gray, that's where there's zero interaction. So if you look right here where this triangle is, or this diamond, I'm sorry, right here, across that line, there is no interaction at all. The original image shows through, and from that point going up, we get brighter and brighter. From that point going down, we get darker and darker. So in soft light, darker things get darker when there's black on them, and lighter things get lighter when there's white on them. Did you see that again? And there's the gradient that's on there. So with soft light, you can use black to darken, white to lighten, and anywhere where it's 50% gray, nothing happens. So this is the magic blending mode that a lot of professionals use for dodging and burning. Because as you can see, where you lay on the black, you're dodging. You're burning, excuse me. When you lay on the black, you're burning, and when you lay on the white, you're dodging. And in varying opacities of that, you have a lot of control over brightening and darkening the image. This is also a mode that can be used for sharpening. The high pass. Has anybody ever used high pass sharpening? Mm-hmm. If you ever use high pass sharpening is based on soft light blending. We'll get to that in a minute, but I will go ahead and kill this. And I'm going to put that back on again, because now's a good time just to mention the other one next to soft light, which is overlay. And in fact, I'm going to do this. I'm going to duplicate that again, and I'm going to put that one back to soft light. So there's soft light. I'm going to turn that off, and let you see overlay. Overlay is soft light on steroids. Overlay is just a strong version of soft light. So there's soft light. You can see it darkens where the gradient was black, lightens where it was white, does nothing there. And then overlay does the same thing, but just at a much higher strength. You notice right in the middle right there, it's still the original image right on that line that's 50% gray. But look how much darker the dark got, look how much brighter the bright got. So overlay is another useful one. It's just, it's stomping your foot down on the accelerator of soft light. Now, as I said, those are can be used for dodging and burning. I'm gonna get rid of those. So a lot of professionals will dodge and burn using this technique. You want a new layer that you'll do your dodging and burning on. So you say layer, new layer. And by the way, you have to do it this way. Doing it down here with a little plus sign doesn't give you the option that I'm about to show you that you only get doing it from the menu. So we're going to go layer, new layer, and we're going to say mode, soft light, and then you see right here it says fill with soft light neutral color, 50% gray. This is saying that it's going to fill the layer with 50% gray and put it in soft light mode. And we learned a minute ago what happens with 50% gray in soft light mode? Nothing. So all we have now is a 50% gray layer in soft light blending mode. You could go ahead and say, make a new layer, fill it with 50% gray, and then change it to soft light, same thing. All it's about is getting a layer filled with 50% gray in soft light mode. And in soft light, 50% gray is invisible. But anything you do with black and anything you do with white darkens and lightens. So if I get a brush tool now, I have 100% black. I can say, yep, I'm going to do some heavy burning. Let me get a black brush. There. You can say, yeah, I'm going to do some heavy burning with a black brush over here. Then I can say, oh yeah, pure white. I'm going to do some real dodging in right here. And if you want to really fine-tune things, yes, you can go up here and change the opacity of your brush if you want to be really subtle. Let's say I'm going to go right in here and just lighten that area up right there. In fact, I'll go back and say the opacity was even too much for that. I'll go way down on the opacity. And then I'm brushing with a 19% opacity brush on some of these dark areas now. Same thing, if I switch over to black and come over here, I'm only burning in with a 19% brush. It's not doing much. You can increase your opacity here, there's 50%. Now I'm seeing something. But I have a lot of control over it by varying the opacity of the brush. And so this is where you can do very refined dodging and burning using a layer like that. You can just keep playing around with it. You can keep. Now this is also good when you have something in color, because if you're working in color, all right, yeah, let's take this image here. We'll do some other things with this image later too, but if you were to take the actual dodging and burning brush that they give you here and say, yeah, I'm gonna do a little burning. This image already had a lot of dodging and burning on it, but we'll see about doing some more. Let me increase the brush. It does some really weird things to the pixels. They call it pixel bruising, where if you keep doing it, you notice the color changed. When I dodged, it's actually changing the color. Do you see that? It's taking the color out of it. That's why the dodge and burn brush that they actually give you, these are horrible tools, because they actually do some really bad things with color when you're working on a color image. But you don't get any of the weird interactions with color if you use that method we talked about before. Soft light, and check this box. Okay, nothing's happened yet. Now, if I want to do some dodging and burning, we'll just, you don't see weird color changes happening with this now. Go over here and see. And interestingly, because let me do this. Let me get that layer tool back in. You actually need to use a regular brush tool. I was actually using the dodge brush. That's why I kept dodging. But because I was in that special mode on the layer, even that wasn't affecting it the way it normally does. But we're going to go here, layer, new, layer. And you can create an action for this if you don't want to keep doing this repeatedly. You can record this as an action. Okay, so now I've got a regular brush. So now if I paint in black, yeah, I'm actually doing some dodging. And if I paint in white, I'm actually doing some burning. Now, when you do this, you really do want to typically, especially if you're retouching, you want to be down at low opacities, because it does show up, pretty strong when you're doing it at a high opacity. If I put this at 100%, it's just crazy. So you normally do this typically, most cases, under 20. But like I say, you can go ahead, do some dodging, and it's much more refined than using the actual dodge and burn tools by using a regular brush on a dodge and burn layer. Now, let me jump to, you can also use soft light just to take an image and enhance it. I'm just going to go ahead and just take this straight up image, and we're going to go with soft light. Notice the dark areas get darker, the light areas get lighter. It's a contrast thing. It built in contrast. So if you have a flat looking image, let's see, there's kind of a flat looking image. Let's duplicate that and tell it soft light. See the difference?
Yeah.
Built in some more contrast on that. And of course, if you go with soft light's big brother overlay, it actually blows out the highlights and completely blocks up the blacks. But remember, you do have opacity control. But if you're looking for something stylized, that might be something you're interested in. But soft light will, soft light is a way where you can punch in some contrast overall in image. So that's what we did here. Boom. See the overall contrast? Now we could take that and I would put it back to 0 and then just gradually bring up the opacity and say right about there. And of course, don't forget, you can always put masks on things. Let me actually make my brush. If your brush doesn't do what you think it should do, check this if you've been using it in different modes. Make sure your brush is back to normal. So there, I'm masking out this guy. So now the soft light is only affecting the bottom area. And as always, you can keep duplicating the effect by stacking multiple versions of the layer. So soft light is a contrast tool. I'll turn those off and let's just on this image, let's look at overlay. Overlay, super contrast. You see that? That's real punch in the face contrast right there. You put this mask on it. By the way, I held Alt or Option and you can just drag a mask to duplicate it. But there's bringing in overlay at 37%. And some people use this specifically. I'm going to invert this mask. Some people specifically use this to take a dramatic sky and really make a sky into a dramatic sky. Overlay and soft light are used by landscape photographers a lot to do that to the sky. Do you see that?
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, you want those, doomsday clouds. Then, yeah, a strong overlay mode is what you want with that. Of course, you can go crazy with it, but.
Jim, you mentioned earlier that using the blend modes is a good way to start working on a file when you're opening it up for the first time in Photoshop.
Go back to the beginning of that. I didn't hear the first part of what you said about.
You mentioned earlier that using the blend modes is a good way to start working on a file when you open it up originally in Photoshop.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for darkening and lightening, for bringing up a dark image, and bringing down a bright image. If you're bringing something straight into Photoshop, multiply and screen are great modes to start with. Yes.
Okay. Now, are there any reasons to not do the preliminary adjustments in Lightroom and export it to Photoshop, or are you better off just working directly in Photoshop?
No, it's a matter of your intent as an artist once you know the tools and how they work. And and some people don't have, some people don't use Lightroom, some people don't have it. This goes back to the days when we didn't have it, and there are times when I will just, quick plunk something into Photoshop, do this, and be done with it. Sometimes I will just have Photoshop open and just grab something out of a folder, on the computer, plunk it on Photoshop, and quick do something. If I'm just doing something really quick like that for something, yeah, there are times when I do that. Mm-hmm. And that's times when it's just the speed factor, for me, rather than having it in one program, doing something to it, possibly in another, because within Photoshop is where I put my watermark and stuff on anyway. So pretty much anything that I'm sending out that's going to have that watermark is going to end up in Photoshop. And if I don't need to run something through Lightroom like that, I won't necessarily do it just for time saving purposes. There's nothing about one way is better than another necessarily. It's, this is another thing that you can, learn as a tool and make the decision as an artist, when you need to, what tool's going to suit you best. And like I say, because I learned with these tools before there ever was Lightroom, they're ingrained in my mind enough that I often know, hey, that's my fast way to do it, and I'll go there, or I'll know, oh, that's my more refined way to do it, I'll go there.
Yeah, I really like the way the blend modes. It's almost like pushing the auto button on the Lightroom program in certain respects to bring out the highlights or contrast.
Yeah, and like I say, this is something that's been done for a long time and is still done. Landscape photographers will, the soft light and the overlay modes are long-time standbys of landscape photographers for, kind of what you see me doing right here. You see how flat that sky is? That's just, that's the flat sky. But, look at the punch in that sky. Of course, it's too much. I would definitely, tone that down, and bring it up and not make it look so scary looking. But, you've got that. And, you've got the opposite here. Let me invert that. Where you've got adding that contrast punch to the foreground here. And so by having two layers like this, you can independently adjust how much punch you put in your foreground and how much punch you put in your sky. You see that? This has been a long time technique of landscape photographers. So I would imagine Brian might be on the edge of his seat watching this right now.
Yeah, and I'm waiting to ask a question, but I don't want to interrupt the flow here at the moment.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna interrupt the flow and say what happens when your Lightroom crashes. You got to go to Photoshop. What happens when your catalog just don't work? You got to go to Photoshop.
So, okay, my question is there a way to use the AI select sky within the mask?
Oh, sure. Well, you use AI to you do a sky selection and then make a mask. So yes, let's kill all these, and you can certainly go here and say select sky. Now we could then put the sky up on its own layer and say soft light.
What did you do just then? After the selection, how did you just click the layer and it automatically took the selection only?
I'll go back because apparently you missed that. All right, original image here, select sky.
Yeah. Right.
Now you see the marching ants around the sky?
Yeah.
I'm going to hit Command or Control J, and only what's in the marching ants gets put on the layer.
Okay, that is exactly what I asked you. Yeah, okay. Good.
Yep, Command or Control J. Yep.
So he does the selection.
There it is. So now it's not even a matter of using a mask. You only have the sky on that layer when you tell it soft light. Because that's all that exists on that layer, so that's all that it's going to happen to. And same thing, we can say select sky. We can invert that selection, by the way, on this contextual taskbar right here. That's this button right here. I just click that button and it inverts the selection. We'll hit Command or Control J, and now we have a foreground and we have a sky.
Right.
And yes, and there again, you can to answer your question, you can independently manipulate these.
Yeah.
So there's a soft light sky on top of a soft light foreground, and we can independently adjust those now without even using masks. As we said earlier, you know, there's so many alternate ways in Photoshop to get to the same result, and it's great to learn them. So I'm glad you asked that question, Brian. So.
I trust the technology more than I trust my ability to paint with a brush.
As well, you should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those of us who started using Photoshop in 1994 went many decades without AI and got well versed in doing it the old way. So now we also, because it's contrast, we can use it as a sharpening tool as well. That's what the high pass sharpening technique is based on, because all sharpening is based on contrast. So I'm going to kill these. And I'm going to make a layer, and on that layer, I'm going to select Filter, Other, High Pass. Oh, it's empty. I got to duplicate the original layer. Sorry, my bad. There, duplicated the original layer. Filter, Other, High Pass. So, remember, 50% gray, nothing happens. But what high pass does, this radius slider, is looking for edges, and you can define how narrow or how non-existent the edges are. And then by enhancing contrast on the edges, that's sharpening. This is a sharpening technique. So you can find, you know, how much you want for edges right there. I hope over Zoom you can see the white areas. It's basically creating little halos, and you can say, oh, there's going to be really big halos or really narrow halos. So let's go something like that. Now, the other thing I'm going to do, now that I've showed you what it does, I'm going to be smart about it, and I'm going to tell it to convert it to a smart object. Because you saw that radius, we want to be able to go back and adjust that radius if we need to after you look at the results. So now we'll go to Filter, Other, High Pass. Okay, so I've got 10 pixels there. Well, suppose then 10 pixels, you know, isn't enough. So I'll do that, and we're going to change the blend mode to soft light. So now, I don't know if you see on your end, do you see the sharpening effect? Like especially right down here, I'll zoom in. There's before, there's after, and I can go here, and because it's a smart object now I can go in and find this radius and adjust it. See that? So now I'm adjusting how much sharpening is going on. Also, you can see that the bigger I go with that radius, look at the mountains. See the halos that show at different iterations? If you get to a certain amount and a halo becomes very obvious. You get to a lower amount, it's not so obvious. You actually can get to a point where you can spread the halo so far that it again doesn't become obvious because you've spread the halo so far, it actually feathers itself out. Do you see that? So this is you can get some very interesting effects with this. And like I say, I really like what this is doing to all the grass in the foreground, not so much what's happening up here. So again, I would use that masked. So that said, I really like the effect it's happening down here in all the grass, but not up here. So let's select the sky. Let's invert the selection. Let's put that onto its own layer. Let's turn it into a smart layer. I'm looking for that.
Down below, one down.
Thank you. I was blind for a minute there. Now we'll go filter, other, high pass. Let's just start somewhere, because remember, this is a smart object, so we can adjust this after. We just need to get it in place and then tell this we want to be in soft light mode. Now we can go back down here, and now we can look in real time at our image and say, okay, what effect do we want to have on here? So this is affecting sharpening and contrast simultaneously. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
Do you like that?
Yeah, definitely.
I heard some mumbling.
Yeah, that definitely it makes a difference, and you're just sharpening what you need to sharpen and not sharpening the sky.
No. And it's a dual thing happening at once. It's a sharpening and contrast. You see that?
Yeah.
So you get sharpening going on and contrast simultaneously. You see how the bright areas are getting brighter, the dark areas are getting darker, and you also get a sharpening effect happening in there. Again, this is old-time landscape photographer technique.
Did you make? But you didn't make any halos in the mountains because they were separated from the sky, because they were selected out.
Yes, because this is the only thing that's selected.
Right.
This is nothing's happening in the sky, so it's only happening there.
Oh.
And I could do it, I could invert this and do a separate thing on the sky to add some drama, to the sky if I wanted a little drama, added on there. So, any questions on that? Any landscape photographers think you'll use that?
My concern is it's a little bit complicated, and I don't know if I'll remember it when I need it. And I'll probably, it's going to be, I'd have to go back and watch the video all over again, and
I'm with you, Brian.
Yeah, but if you use it a couple of times, then you remember it. So.
Yes,
Yep.
I'm going to give this a try.
I'll give it to you real quick on here. Select sky, invert, duplicate.
Command J, Commander Control
Yep.
J.
Convert to, and there's a couple different ways to duplicate, and then we want to convert to smart object.
how did you menu up the menu?
What,
How did you get the menu up where it's convert to smart object
right click,
on the layer?
right click on layer. You also have an option up here. It says filter. They call it convert for smart filters. It's the exact same thing.
Okay.
So you can optionally just go here and say filter, convert for smart filters, And look, it's still a smart object.
Okay.
They use two different phrases in two different areas, but it accomplishes the exact same effect. Again, with the Photoshop, with multiple ways to do the same thing. But yeah, so to run it through again, select sky, invert, duplicate. Here's another way to duplicate it. Drag your layer onto the plus. That duplicated the whole layer. Never mind. Forget I said that. So, all right, sky, invert, Command or Control J, and you can say filter, convert for smart filters. That will keep your mouse right up here by the filter menu, so that then you can say other, high pass.
Okay, so
Pick a number, any number, doesn't matter. Tell it okay, and say soft light, double click where it says high pass, and then tweak away.
all right. So go back to that menu, the filter
Menu.
the filter menu.
Uh-huh.
What is the difference between that high pass at the top there and that one in under other?
Because this is a shortcut to the last thing you did. So that is the last thing I did. It always remembers the last filter you used and puts it at the top of the list, so that it's a shortcut for you to use it again. So that say if I went in here to blur gallery, and or blur and did a Gaussian blur.
All right, so the answer is it's not different, it's exactly the same.
Yep, so now if I go here, filter, you see now the top thing says Gaussian blur, and then high passes under that. It's shortcuts to your most recently used filters.
Okay, I'm glad I asked that question.
Yeah, that's good to learn. So yeah, and you can, by the way, and I've done this, do this one time, but record it as an action. And then all you have to do is run it as an action, and you don't have to remember all those steps. That's the beauty of actions.
Yeah, show them how to do that real quick.
Sure. Actions. I'm going to pull this out as a fly-out menu here, so that we can see it. Okay, and let's see, activate button. No, let me turn off. Oh, okay, we're going to tell it that we want a new action. That's what the plus is right here. Give it a name. Now, when I did this for myself, I did not have a mask, on it, but we're going to see if we can include the AI masking. So you can pick a function key, which is always very helpful. Let's just say Control F12. All right, good. That doesn't, that's a free spot, Control F12. All right, so now the record button is lit up. It's going to record what we do. So we want to select the sky. We want to invert the selection. Okay, now see over here, it is building this. Select sky, inverse, filter, convert for smart filters. Yep, and I'm watching it here. It's building every step so far. That's good. So we've got it converted for smart filters. Now the filter we're going to select is...
You didn't make a layer. Are you supposed to make...
Oh, yes, thank you, Lynn. Yes, I'm jumping ahead of myself. So at this point, I need to duplicate the layer. There. layer via copy. We've got that.
It's not
Thank
showing-
you.
Oh, there it is.
Good
Okay.
catch, Lynn.
Yeah, but the smart object is on your first layer now, though. It's on the right.
Oh
it's
yeah,
place.
good catch. Yep, let's trash that and start over. Yeah, good catch, Lynn. So, all right, stop recording. Trash that. Start over. This is, and here, we can just call this. And again, we're going to go, Control F12 is going to be the key. Oh, and we're messed up again because we already have things going on. We need to take this all the way back. There we go. All right, you got to just start with your base image before you do this. All right, let's see if we can record an action on the third try.
It's still showing oh, there, now it is. Your computer is running behind your talking by a few seconds.
Oh, the Zoom is probably delayed transmission over my talking.
Yep.
All right, we're going to try those steps again. All right, we are recording. The red button is lit up. So at this point, we need to select the sky. We need to invert the selection. We need to duplicate the selection. We need to convert for smart filters. We need to choose other high pass. Give it a number, any number, doesn't matter. Just needs a number to start. Tell it okay. Tell it we want it in soft light mode. And now we can tell it stop recording. Boom. Done. So now, if I go back to square one, I should be able to just hit Control F12. See if it runs. As it does say right here, Control F12. Let me see if I hit the play button, if it works. Nope. I don't see any steps recorded under there.
That's weird.
All right, I'm seeing steps being recorded. Let's see if they disappear. And stop recording.
Now they're there.
All right, so I see everything is there. So if I go back to here, so if I choose that, hit the play button.
Now it's working.
Ah,
There it goes.
yep.
So do we know what we did wrong the first time?
No, I don't. But
There was nothing
but-
wrong. It was just
so you can record
experimental.
the action, and then you simply go here to high pass and change your radius and watch the effect on the foreground of your landscape. So if you get the action to record properly,
Then it's a lot easier.
yeah, that's the beauty of actions. You don't have to remember all those steps, you know. Yeah, I've done it a million times, so I remember all the steps, but
Except
yes.
that you got the copy of the layer that one time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Jim,
Yes, sir.
you can save that action and put it in the chat box.
Oh
And
yeah.
do what?
Put it in the chat.
I say you can save the action and put it in the chat box.
I wasn't aware of that. And how can you do that?
On that action, what did you call it?
High pass foreground, and I did leave one final step out that will make it perfect for everybody. So I'm going to delete it and do it one more time, and then show me how to put it in the chat box if you don't mind. So you're going to get to see it happen one more time. You're going to be sick of it. And we're going to choose Control F. Now, Robert, the fact that I chose Control, is that going to mess up a Mac user that needs to use Command?
Mac people already know this stuff.
But I'm saying if they copy the action out of the chat box.
I'm just totally kidding, man. we don't know this crap. This is like over high tech and all that kind of stuff. F12. Let's see. Do we have F12?
I'm doing Control F12. How about if I do Shift F12 and that won't mess up any Mac users?
Okay.
All right, well, it won't let me use Shift F12 because that's assigned to something. Let me see. All right. Yep. Let's see. I just want to find something I can use with only with the Shift key so that it doesn't mess up any Mac users.
Okay, there you go. That's good.
Yeah, so
good.
Shift F10.
There you go.
Put it on, Shift F10. Okay, so it's going to be Shift F10. And oops. Oh, we're almost messing up again. We need to be back to a base image. Okay. And we're going to go Shift F10. Record. Select sky. Invert selection. Duplicate selection. Convert for smart filters, i.e. convert to smart object. Okay. Filter. Other. High pass. Choose a random number. Tell it OK. Switch to soft light. Stop recording.
I thought you said there was one thing to add.
Yeah, switch to soft light was what was not added.
Oh, okay.
I didn't add the blending mode at the end the first time around.
Okay.
So toss that all in the garbage. Let's choose high pass foreground.
Notice that it says Shift Control F12, not Shift F12.
And I set it to Shift F10. However, I do see using the play button here worked. So now let me see if Shift F10 works. Shift F10 worked. So this is lying. Shift Control F12 is a lie. It actually did do what I told it and worked.
You made so many changes over and over again. The poor Photoshop is having a heart attack.
So I'm simply just brought in a base image and I'm going to say Shift F10. And then all you have to do to make your adjustment is double click on the word high pass and watch it in real time as you make an adjustment to it.
Okay. I got my money's worth out of this tonight.
Okay, so.
All right, so now, Robert, how do I put that in the chat?
All right, it's highlighted right now. Yes,
it is.
The action. Go up top to the action bar. Yeah, your burger. Click on that.
Uh-huh.
And it should say save action. Yeah, about the fourth channel down on the right. It says save action.
Save action. Okay.
I click on that, and it'll say, okay, where do you want to save it? It's an ATN file.
Okay, and I'll just put it in an easy place to get to. Downloads. Okay.
And it's a small file, so just put it in the chat.
All right.
Wow.
Thank you, Robert.
You get
I
a
learned
freebie
something.
tonight, guys.
So we need to go back and make a note of where we obviously, when we download this, we then have to put it in the location he just got it out of, right?
No, you just double click on it. It'll go into where it needs to go.
As long as Photoshop is open or Photoshop has to be closed. Photoshop has to be
You just
open.
download the file, open Photoshop, double click, and you're good to go.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay.
So if I go to downloads, I can drag and drop that on the chat.
Yep.
Okay, there we go. Sending. Thank you, Robert.
That's what I'm here for.
All right. So now,
All right, Brian, it's going to be easy now.
well, if I can figure out how to download, oh, there we go. Okay. Download potential security. James Sykes is trying to screw up your computer.
Those actions are bad things. Ooh.
Okay, it said download, but it didn't tell me where it downloaded it to.
To your downloads.
Oh, well, look, I don't know. It doesn't always.
Okay, Jim, it's 8:33. 8:33. How much more have you got? You need to speed it along.
There's that's the four you'll use the most, but there are two others that are useful. And let me find something that I can put it on. It's done.
So how I have both beta and regular Photoshop on my computer. How's it going to know which one to put it in?
Depends on which one's open.
Whatever's open.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to start this way. I'm going to just go into screen mode and open up his face so that we can do something here. I'm just going to put that back into one layer now. All right, so I'm going to start with this. There is a mode that you can use, and I like to use it on the brush. Remember we talked about how you can just use the brushes? And let me put my actions back there where they belong. Okay, so we get a lot smaller brush here. And I'm going to say, all right, let's see say I want to get rid of the bright spot, on his forehead up here. And I wanted to retouch that. I'd want to retouch it with, similar close skin tone here. I'll, sample that. So right now I just have a brush.
Wait, Jim. How did you sample that?
By holding the Alt or Option key in the brush. Thank you, Robert. Hold Alt or Option while you have a brush tool activated, and you can click, anywhere, and you see my foreground swatch is changing to whatever color I click on. So hold down the Alt or Option key when you have a brush, and you can pick a color. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Robert, that people might not know that. So I've got a color chosen. If I just paint with that color on this layer, well, that's not going to work, is it? That's pretty bad looking. However, this is where hue or color work. These are blending modes for coloring things, as you can guess by the names, hue and color. So oftentimes when I'm doing this, I will choose color. And again, in retouching work, you generally use low flow brushes so that you can actually kind of airbrush, back and forth. I'm going to start at around 20. And see, I'm just doing a 20% brush, just kind of dabbing it in. See the difference?
Yeah.
airbrushing. And then the beauty is if you can put a mask on there and, I could paint with black and say, oops, I went into the hairline a little bit, and fix that. But I'll do that again. So you see, it's simple as turn on an empty layer, have a brush tool active, pick a color. I'm holding, Alt or Option, pick a color, lower your brush. Typically, when you're retouching, if you're doing faces or whatever and you're doing this, you want to be 20% or less. Let's go in on this actually about 15 this time. And I'm just going to click, I'm just going to dab it in. I'm not even going to paint. I'm just going to kind of dab around, with it right here. See how much more natural that looks because I'm in color mode with that brush. If you're just brushing with that color, it's not as good. You lose some of what's going on with the texture and whatnot. Also, hue is the other way to do that. Hue and color can be used for doing this for a blending mode. Now I'm going to show one other thing that you need to know when you're doing these things that can be helpful as well. Am I okay on time, Lynn?
It's 8:38.
Yeah, did you have something else that needs to get covered, or can I show another thing?
Keep going.
Pardon me?
Keep going.
Okay. Let me find something. See if I can find something that, an already open image that, oh yeah, here we go. Let's do this. I'm going to just copy this image. So I'm going to go Control or Command A, Control or Command C to copy it, and then I'm just going to deselect it. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to paste it after I get rid of all that stuff. Okay. All right. Got some lightning going in here. So let's just say I wanted to put some lightning into those clouds back there. I'm going to just position this around there, kind of, to start with. I'm going to use Control or Command T to transform this. Yeah, let's kind of do this with it. Now, I only want to leave the bright part and get rid of everything else here, so I'm going to do a couple things to bring some of this lightning in, probably around here on this image. So let me see, first thing, let me try blend mode here. Okay. Screen, let me see what happens with that, because I can still see my lightning there, but I still see some of the other stuff going on as well. So I like the fact that I can see the lightning there, but I still want to get rid of this other sky area and whatnot, and the blending mode isn't doing the whole thing for me. It's not doing the entire job. You do have, down here on this little FX button, blending options. This isn't blending modes. This has more effect on how your layers blend with each other. So I'm going to take this. Let me pull the window over here from my other screen. And it says right now the blend mode we're working in is screen. And you've got current layer and underlying layer. Current layer is the top layer that's selected right here. That's the layer that I want to mess around with and say, let me try and get rid of that sky. Let me see if I can do that. So
to be clear, this dialogue would have come up when you clicked on that FX thing, right?
it did. It came up on one of my other two screens. So it came up on that screen to the left, and so I just pulled it in from the right. If you're only working with one monitor, then yes, it will come up on one monitor. I have my palette spread out over 3 monitors to give me lots of real estate here to work on. So yeah, it came up over there, and I just dragged it in from where it normally popped up. I think now, since I left it there, now it pops up there. So the current layer I want to affect, and on these sliders, you can, as I slide this in, you see how it's basically taking that sky out of there, but still leaving the lightning.
Cool.
Now, it's a little raggedy looking. Anytime you're doing this, you almost always want to refine it. You want to get it close. And then these arrows have an option to split them. And it's the Alt or Option key. If you click on it, it actually breaks the little pointer into 2 sliders. And now you spread those 2 sliders and see how much more refined that looks. So I'm going to go with that. I'm pretty much leaving, just the lightning. Yeah, now I have the option to use the free transform tool, Control or Command T. Say, yeah, let me put this over here, kind of about like that. And then I'm going to put a mask on here. And in order to make it look realistic, I'm actually going to need a hard brush. Because then with the hard brush, I can say, yeah, let me take that out of there. And guess what? I left my opacity at 15% when I was retouching. When your brushes don't work, check these numbers and this mode box right here and make sure it's normal and 100% anytime you see your brushes don't work right. So I'm going to say, yeah, let's just say that the lightning is hitting on the backside of the mountains over there. So it's a rough, quickie job, but okay. There's your totally faked in lightning. So, and that's by virtue of using the blending options and using that tool right there. So even now, after the fact, you can see I can still, affect what's going on by going back and playing with these pieces right here and still do some more refinement if I felt I needed to. It remembers where you set them. They don't go away and re-zero whatever you left them on for that layer. The window is just hidden, but where you left things is still part of that layer, and you can always go back to it. So yeah, that was the one other thing I wanted to show, that is yet again another refinement.
Hey, Jim, I want you to do one more thing.
Right there.
That photograph for me.
Uh-huh.
All right, you can get out of there. I want you to put in a blank layer above that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, change the blend mode from normal to, let's go screen.
Mm-hmm.
Take out a brush, a big brush, and right above the end of the top of the lightning.
Hard or a soft brush? Which do you want,
Soft,
Robert?
very soft, very soft.
A big soft brush.
Yeah, soft brush. A little bit bigger. That's pretty good. No, that's too big,
Yeah.
too big. Come back. A little bit smaller. Now the cloud that's above the top of the lightning on the left-hand side. Yes. Tap right there. Okay. Go to your default.
Remember, I have the fade brush tool if you want that refined.
No, I was gonna say go to your because you're in the screen mode.
Mm-hmm.
Go to your default black and white, which letter D.
There we go. Black.
Yeah,
and
so
white.
you'll hit the X key and go to your white.
Mm-hmm.
My point is that you tap that, you're at 100% on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Yeah, and you
what?
can change the opacity of the layer as well.
Right. So what I'm getting at is that lightning is coming from a bright area in the
Mm-hmm.
cloud,
Yep.
and so you use the screen blending mode in order to affect that.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
How so many ways you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
That deal that you mentioned. Now, one more thing, Jim. Just one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
One more thing, and I'll shut up. I promise I'll shut up. So I want you to take that, unlink those two pieces uh, of that layer number, your top layer. What? No, it was the top layer. I need
Oh, you
that-
want that? You still want that empty layer there?
Yeah, I want that empty layer. Go back to your screen.
Mm-hmm.
There was just one more thing I wanted to add in there. Go back and change the screen and put that little bright spot back in there.
Oh, okay. We go. Okay.
All right, you got the screen. You got everything back in there, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I just
All
went
right.
back into history.
Okay, good. Let's do a Command T. All right, now make that thing bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying how you can so many things you could do with that blend mode and with the brush at the same time. So that was the only point, is that you're not locked into, if you make a wrong size, you can make it bigger and or smaller. But the whole point is that you're blending items in and out of in order to affect things and make them more vivid. And these are the things you cannot do so well inside of Lightroom when it crashes.
Yeah. In this case, I'm actually switching to overlay and think it looks
Yeah.
even a little more realistic than screen.
There you go. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That is my point.
Hey Jim, I have a question.
Mhm.
When you went to the FX mode and you went to blend options, is that a different screen than just simply double clicking on the side of the right side of the letter or the layer name? I see
I didn't repeat the question for me.
yeah, I mean cancel out of here
Okay.
and just simply double click on the right side of the layer 1 or layer 2. Yeah,
Over
right.
here.
No. In between that and the layer name.
Here.
Nope. On the more to the right. More to the right.
Here.
Yeah, next on the other side.
Here?
Right there. Yeah.
Okay.
Double click it.
Okay. Yep. There it is. There as well.
I was curious if that was different from going through the FX procedure.
Oh, it's the same. You can even see you can even see where I left the pointers.
Yeah, all
Yep.
right. Well, that was just another way to get there then.
Yeah.
You are correct.
As usual, there's multiple ways to do everything in Photoshop.
Yep.
Well,
And see, you just taught me something. I knew this way. I didn't know that way.
That's
Jim,
a little bit quicker.
Jim Hagan is a Marine. He knows how to cut down fast in order to
Hey,
get it quicker.
I like that. I like the speed modes. So you just taught me something that'll speed things up.
And say,
Thank you.
bullets don't affect him.
All right. What else, Jim? Sykes.
That pretty much covers what I prepped in the 45 minutes before the meeting.
Not bad.
So, but yeah, like I say, those are really, of the 27 blending modes, the 4 that you'll use the most, and like I say, the hue and the color, for doing some retouching. Even on here, I'll go ahead and do this. Let me just add another layer, and let me pick a color. Let me see here. Well, that's only given me a black and white to choose from. Let me go here, window, swatches. Okay. They're over here. Okay, yellow. Let's just say, big soft brush. I wanted to add a little bit. Let's say I wanted to add some yellow into some of this grass. That's pretty horrible looking, just painting yellow on the layer there. However, remember we talked about hue and color.
Oh, yeah.
See the difference?
Yeah.
So, this is pretty rough, ugly work, but yeah, you get the idea. That's painting with a 100% brush. It's a 100% yellow brush, but because the blend mode of the layer is color, look at that. If I go back to normal, that yuck. If I switch it to hue, you notice it's a little subtler. It's a little more subtle in hue versus color. So, not necessarily just for faces. Yeah, of course it.
Hey, Jim, that would be great for painting fall aspen trees here.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yep. Yep. So there you go. That, like I say, hue and color are nice blending modes also. In fact, I'm going to throw that away. Just put a new layer on there, and let me switch the brush to color, and I'll put the brush at, say, around there, and just say, that's really strong.
Sunflower fields too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see.
1%, you're getting nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, all the rich people.
Yeah, and what I'm noticing here on the brush is the brush is still very strong versus having the layer, in that mode. We'll put the brush back to normal. Let me take those things off of there, and there.
Do your layer normal.
Yep.
Yeah. Go pretty yellow. Yeah, much better.
Yeah, so you can say, okay, yeah, that's kind of looking nice, and you go in. But yeah, that's it's a colorization technique. I could even say, all right, now I got colors here. Let's say I want to do really add some depth up here to the sky. There you go. So that's the other modes, using hue or color in addition to the multiply, screen, soft light, and overlay. And just remember, the multiply and screen affect the multiply effects with the dark, screen effects with the light, overlay affects less on everything and nothing in middle gray. Overlay is the stronger version, and hue and color are for colorization. In a nutshell. And the soft light and overlay can also be used with the high pass for sharpening and contrast adjustments. Any questions on anything to fill out the time?
I was concerned there was going to be a lot of repetition from your excellent blending mode potluck you did last year, and you didn't copy anything. It was all brand new good stuff.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, because you saw even with textures, you're blending two things together, and it's typically in there. It's mostly multiply and overlay, and soft light are the ones that are typically being used in textures. This is cases of when you're not doing what we were doing with textures, working with straight up images and using these as useful tools with straight up images as opposed to a texturizing technique. So yeah, I did want to go, showing different real world cases, of them. Yeah, and that, the dodge burn layer thing too. That's, if you get anything out of this, it's that high pass method, and it's the dodging and burning. So layer, and like I say again, you can record an action for this.
We have it.
No, for this one, yeah, I didn't send you one for this. Do you want me to send you one for this?
For what? This one, you did high pass.
This is for dodging and burning.
Oh yeah.
This is the dodge burn layer.
Yes.
Yeah, why not, right?
Why not?
Yeah, if you want to hang on for another 5 minutes.
And we get another tutorial in making.
You're going to get another free action here.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is going to be.
And we get to watch how they're done, so that's important too.
Dodge and burn layer. All right, now let's pick a Mac friendly function here. Let's see if we can get a Shift F9. Yeah, we can get a Shift F9. All right, recording. You want layer, new, layer, soft light, fill with soft light, neutral color, 50% gray. Okay, done. Stop recording. That's it. So
We've solved the mystery. You have high pass foreground with Shift Control F12 and high pass foreground with Shift F.
There twice.
yeah,
Now we need to go with, yeah, I'm good to go.
not anymore.
Give more better.
Okay, so let's see. Save action. Downloads.
You have the wrong one highlighted.
Oh, thank you, because, yeah, we got sidetracked there. Yeah, good catch, Lynn. Yeah, we went dodge and burn layer.
By the way, for anybody who, I tried double clicking and it worked, so. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Brian. What did you say? You tried double clicking and it worked.
Yeah.
Who told you to do that?
You did.
All right. So you said, by the way, I tried it and it worked. Of course it worked.
Okay. Sorry for
Jim Hagan.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lead the troops into the jungle. I just tell them where to jump.
Well, we have to trust but verify. Come on, trust but verify.
All right, you've got a dodge and burn layer now, and so.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim.
So yeah, you can see.
These. Sorry,
here.
if you're watching the recording, folks, you don't get these. You can.
So yeah, I
won't give them to you.
I've got my dodging and burning layer active, so I've got my black brush at 24%. I'm going to say, ooh, yeah, let me darken up some skies. And do that. And I can switch to white and say, yeah, let me do even a little lower opacity there. Let's say about 10%. Let's say, okay, yeah, I'm going to lighten up a couple areas, in the grass, here, and then I'm going to go back to a black brush, smaller, increase the opacity, and let's bring out some of these lines. Ooh, that's way too strong. There we go. That's kind of, yeah,
Gives you depth.
delineating these things a little bit here.
Gives you
So,
depth.
yeah, excellent. Say, oh, let's lighten up a little bit of the mountains. Yeah. And you always, test and then say, yep, nope, too little, too much, and then adjust again.
I just had a thought that what you were just doing now with this dodging and burning, would that be allowed in National Geographic?
No.
Well, dodging and burning has always been done since the days of the darkroom, just for normal image correction and whatnot. So, dodging and burning to a certain extent has always been allowed. Now to what extent they may allow it today, I don't know. But dodging and burning all the way back in the days of the darkroom was almost a necessity with any image, just to the limitations of working with a negative.
Ansel Adams' work would not be what it is if it wasn't for dodging and burning.
He was the master of dodging and burning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have loved to see Ansel Adams get a copy of Photoshop.
Yeah.
He would have been all over it.
Yep.
Any more questions, guys? It's after 9 o'clock.
Just thank you, Jim. I really,
Absolutely. Lots of information here. Lots of
yeah,
information.
I really like learning about the different things that Photoshop can do that Lightroom can't. I think these are really, really good. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, even here I'm clicking this on and off just so you can see my real rough, super quickie, dodge and burn on this. Just with that, adding a little dimension to it.
Adding a lot of dimension to it.
Yeah, and that was a really quick, rough job. I would never do it that roughly for real. But I mean, if you're a landscape photographer, and even in portrait work, a lot of these things are great things to know. So I'm glad I got to do this for you guys, and I'm glad I had 45 minutes ahead of the meeting to prep.
Good man.
You guys interested in the poll that we did on our creative types?
Yes.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah, so 12 people responded. And so we have 3 that are thinkers, 1 that is an adventurer, 1 who is a maker, 1 who is a producer, 3 dreamers, no innovators, and 1 visionary. So it's kind of interesting to see it's not a very big sample size, so it's kind of, it doesn't help say a lot, but.
I didn't respond, but I was a producer.
I was too. Yeah.
Just about every question I was like, well, am I that one or that one? What do they mean by that? It could have been so easy for me to be a different one just by making a different decision.
Well, any of those things are like that. I mean, it's just more fun than anything else. But if you get a chance, you have the link. You can actually read what each one of those is, and it's actually kind of, it's fun. It's just a fun thing. It's nothing, nothing that means that's really what you are. Most of us are probably more blends of those than we are actually any one specific one, but just kind of like, yeah.
So then can we do another personality test and decide if we're a type A producer or
no?
Let's do Robert's personality.
Well, I'll tell you this as far as my personality. If Jim had did any more dodging and burning 5 times, that would put us in the 5th dimension.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Jim.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it. Thank you very much.